Ashley, or Yani for short, and welcome back to season 2 of Artist Touch Talks. We are so excited to be back with you for another season. Thank you, family, for returning with us. Today, I'm here with a special guest. Her name is Miranda, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Miranda, who are you?
First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Miranda Stück, and I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, and I moved to New York City 4 years ago, and at this point, New York City feels like home to me. I danced since as long as I can remember, mostly in classical ballet at Pacific Northwest Ballet, and then I trained at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater under the Ailey School in the professional division, and now I currently freelance as a mostly contemporary and modern dance artist, and I've worked with a couple companies, Alison Cook Beauty Dance and Matthew Westerby Company, and I currently work for Stubborn Movement and Eric Taylor Dance.
Beautiful. She just whole resume. She's like, let's go, out the gate. So our favorite thing to do with that question is to break it down a little bit. So as artists, we kind of get so enveloped in our craft that sometimes we forget ourselves as a person. So who is Miranda the person?
Yeah, Miranda as a person is, when I think of myself, my younger self, I've always been what I consider an artist, just lover of movement, and to me movement is communication. It's connected me to so many people in so many places that I think Miranda as a person is just a lover of art. It doesn't matter, I can be on stage, I can be in the audience seat, behind a camera, in front of a camera, whatever it is. I just love being around like-minded people that are interested in creating something beautiful.
I love that. Indeed, creating something beautiful and the connectivity that brings, it does help harness you into a whole different kind of beautiful person. And we have the honor to have that experience with you today. So take us back. Where did the arts journey start for you? When did the arts touch you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, because for a long time, when I tell people, oh, I did ballet, the common response is oh, I grew up doing ballet. So many young female, or male, grew up in ballet and then eventually had that realization, oh, this isn't for me. I think I had a moment senior year of high school where it was kind of a decision time, is this something I will pursue in an actual undergraduate career, or am I not going to commit the rest of my life or the next 4 years of school to this art form? And I just realized I would rather be doing that than anything else. It was it wasn't oh, I want to dance. It was what else would I do other than dance? Because it's kind of just ingrained in my body at this point. Yeah. And I think just ever since then, it's really the feeling of performing in front of an audience that keeps me going, that keeps me motivated, just because that's the adrenaline and that sensation is the best feeling I know.
That's so beautiful. So do you have a memory of when that sensation, you first felt it and was just this is it, nothing else?
I think, I was blessed at Pacific Northwest Ballet School to have performed at McCaw Hall, which it seats a couple of thousand people, and it's downtown Seattle. So I was cast in a piece when I was a senior in high school, and it was choreographed by a choreographer named Christopher Wheeldon, and he actually did the new Michael Jackson musical on Broadway now, but I got cast in a piece that he created, and it was called Scene de Ballet, and it was very cliche, wearing tutus, we were in point shoes, but it was performing that senior year in front of all of my family and kind of closing that chapter, but performing in front of that many people was such a great sensation. I think it clicked that I hadn't been cast in a lot of things growing up. I wasn't chosen, like specifically, oh, we want you. It was always a fight. And so to be chosen for that piece, it gave me like that, all I needed was like a little grain of like, oh, we believe in you. And that like pushed me.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got to have that experience, because it can be very trying and difficult as a dancer, especially trying to break into a space where the environment is so rigid and the environment also doesn't foster a good bit of self-confidence. And so the fact that you were able to have that moment that kind of helped you blossom into knowing like, oh yeah, this is it. And if this one moment is possible, you saw the potential for the exponential growth that could be there. I love that for you. So let's go back to childhood. So were you one of the childhood, like, since 2, I was in ballet shoes. Like, where did your journey, like, what's your first memory you can remember of your craft?
Yeah, I think going way back, it's like memory recall, but one of my first memories is just playing dress up. Like, literally, I just typically was in the living room in my house in some sort of like, I had this cape with a hood and like this big wand. Each day it was kind of something different. Ironically, like I wore a dress every single day to kindergarten. And my mom's friends would ask like, how do you get your daughter to wear a dress? And my mom was like, no, you don't understand. I can't get her out of the dress. Like she won't put pants on. So it was like almost, why I'm bringing up the clothing and the costumes is one, because I have also always been interested in fashion, but 2, because like putting those things on, like it made me feel like something else. Like I could, it was pretend. Like at that point, it was like I'm a fairy or I'm a witch. Like, and so I kind of, that was like a character to me when I was young. So that's my earliest memory, is like putting on a costume and literally just twirling around my house. And I would get my little sisters involved. Like they would wear their costumes, and to the point where like we would create little acts to show my parents and like family friends when they would come over. So those are the earliest memories. And I just always loved, I was never embarrassed to move in front of people, and that kind of just continued. But that's my earliest memories, just in the living room, like twirling around in like fairy wings.
I love that. I love that. I think my mom will be somewhere watching this like, For me, it was less that you couldn't get me out of dress. It was more you couldn't get me in one, but I was very much so, like you said, the fashion, like trying this on, trying that on, this character. I'm a cowgirl today. I'm this, I'm that. So I love that your expression like started so young, like kindergarten, like you were already just like, no, it's pumping through my blood. I'm like, gotta do this. So I love that. That's a beautiful beginning. One of my other favorite questions is, how do you feel like the arts have ever saved you?
Yes, I do. My instinct is yes. I think what comes up for me with that question is in 2019, in the spring, I was diagnosed with a medical disorder. It's an autonomic disorder. It's called POTS syndrome, and it's actually like a dysregulation of my heart rate. And I grew up and I had like unexplainable fainting episodes, and at a certain level, it started interfering with my daily, like, and weekly life. And so it was like a journey, like a medical journey to get that figured out. But I'll never forget the neurologist who diagnosed me said, like, always keep dancing, because dancing, even just on a physical level, has really helped me and my body cope. Because the physical exercise and moving and my muscles and circulation, it's actually helped me so much with symptoms. So like dancing has been, as much as it's a challenge, like it's a lot on the body, it's also been therapeutic, because I just noticed that when I am dancing and moving, I like automatically feel better. And I've never ever been afraid of or had any fainting episode in a dance studio or on stage. So it has really helped me on a more personal level in that way.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I'm so sorry about that diagnosis. I completely understand and I feel for you, because that can be so different. And anything life-changing that affects you like that is something difficult to go through. So I'm so glad you had dance to be able to help pull you through that, and how clearly it was meant to be, because it's also helping you through that medical issue. I absolutely love that for you. So as a creator, I love to ask about family. How has your family been with your path and choosing to, be an artist and a dancer full time?
Yeah, I have been absolutely blessed with two parents who both wholehearteadly have supported me as a dancer and my career as a dancer. They career-wise, like my parents have done completely different things. And my mom did do acting professionally growing up. So she kind of understood that side of the artist and the hustle and like that point where you're a freelance artist and what it means to be auditioning all the time and how to get work, representation. Like she had all those experiences. And overall, like my entire family has been supportive. I mean, that's my favorite part about like after a show is like knowing that your loved ones are in the audience and like getting out of your costume really quickly, like you're sweaty and then you change and you get to see all of them after when you come like out from the backstage door. I just love that feeling. It's really special. And so I feel like they've been a big part of my journey as a dancer, just because they know how much I love it. And it's like, at this point, it's kind of like my red hair. It's like without Miranda being associated with dance and like just the way I like red hair, it's kind of an identity thing where it's so close that like they view me as a dancer, like and so they've been really supportive, and I'm really thankful to them for that.
Yes, I love
just because I know like it's hard to validate yourself, so when you do have family that's accepting, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and I'm so happy for you that you have that support, because yes, having that support system or having to discover that support system is so crucial and needed for well-being. So I'm so happy that you have that built in already, just already giving you that push. So with that support system, I also want to get into some of your other arts as well. I know you sing. Where did that begin? And how has that been for you?
Yeah, my singing began really young as well, actually, like super young. When we moved to Seattle, I just decided to audition for Seattle Girls Choir, which is, it's like pretty well known. I mean, it's Seattle Girls Choir, and so like you have to audition, and I think I sang like "You Are My Sunshine." I was really young, and then I guess the casting director kind of turned to my mom and was like, "She has perfect pitch." So it just went from there, and it was choir for like all throughout high school. It was always just choir, so I was kind of used to singing, but kind of like think like an ensemble dancer, how your point is to be in sync with everyone else. And then when I went to college, I started taking like voice for dancers and learning like when you only have 16 bars in an audition, like that's all you get to prove your talent vocally and your range. So that's when I started learning like how to build my book, how to have a song ready for an audition. And I trained for a long time under Jan Horvath, who was at Steps on Broadway, and she was like in the original cast of Phantom of the Opera, and she's been like wonderful to help me kind of come into my voice as not as like a choir singer, but as
an individual,
like and like musical
soloist.
Theater soloist. And so I finally sang publicly my own solo at New York Live Arts for a performance there. And that was kind of a breakthrough. Like okay, I can start owning this now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that, and I love how you're finding a way to marry that, like wanting to pursue Broadway and theater, and I love how you're finding a way to marry your two loves, both dance and singing, and I look forward to seeing how that manifests.
Thank you.
So in your journey, has there been anything that made you pause or question, like, is this for me, or could there be something else, or what if? Like, have you come across any of those moments?
Yes, I think there are two moments that come to mind, and one of them is just simply because I'm a firm believer of, like, you are a product of your environment. And so to me, like, surrounding yourself with, it doesn't have to be the best, but like the most just driven and like in a healthy and good environment is so important for your own growth. So when I began my undergraduate career, I wasn't in an ideal environment in that sense, and it wasn't supportive, and I wasn't performing, and it just felt, I felt very like literally invisible, like, oh, I could leave this program and no one would know, like it wouldn't make a difference in where I was at. And so that really struck a chord, because I was like, I'm dancing to perform, but if I'm not performing, kind of why am I doing this? Like refining the purpose. So that was a big like wake up, and that's what led me to actually leave and to move to New York by myself. So I picked up everything, literally moved. I was living by myself, new to the city, and but motivated to find a better place. The second time, as we all know, like the pandemic has like affected everyone on the planet, but that was a time for artists. I'm biased, but I do feel that it hit the dance industry probably one of, if not the hardest, in the city and like nationwide, simply because like we literally thrive off of in-person interaction and activity. So without it, like, people were creating virtual works and such, but there's nothing quite like a live performance, like hearing the dancers, seeing them breathe, like all of those things. And so, that was a point that I was like, because I literally was class of 2020, and when March hit, I had just gotten my first professional gig.
Wow.
And so I was fortunate enough to be able to do it, but I was so excited. It gave me like excitement because I'm starting my career. And then it literally was like, that was the point that I was supposed to like go out into the world, and the whole world was shut down. So that I had to kind of redirect myself. Just purpose-wise again. So I ended up actually getting my master's in journalism and public media. So I've always loved writing. Because my form of communication is typically physical movement, but I've always loved writing, so it was nice to learn to communicate better in words rather than movement. So that was the second time that I would say I had to like redirect.
Nice. And I'm glad to hear that you were able to redirect and not be so disheartened that you didn't continue, and you found a way to pivot and transition into something else like media and journalism, and finding another way to express the fact that you love to communicate and connect in a whole different way that still allowed you to find a new way to thrive in a completely different and odd environment that, like you said, we were all thrust into out of nowhere. So I'm glad you were able to spend that, especially coming out of school and what's supposed to be like a celebrated time period. And then having that suddenly turned into like, oh, like you said, nowhere for me to go out and go into, because everything's changed. So I'm so happy it panned out that way for you. So let's go back a little bit. What was that like, arriving in New York by yourself? Like, how can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I haven't actually like thought about it in a long time, just because for now it feels like it's been so long. That time period was definitely like a transitional period, because it was more so like you know, it's one thing to be like, oh, this is fine, but I'll choose, you know, a different program or a different school. For me, leaving that environment was like, it was more so I have to get out of here. So I felt complete 100% motivation to find something better for myself because I knew I deserved that. So when I like picked up everything, moved from the West Coast completely over to the East Coast, it was kind of a whirlwind. I found my housing in like 1 week, and I was just living by myself. I really didn't know many people in the city. I joined a dance conservatory group, like a little group of dancers at Steps on Broadway on the Upper West Side, and I lived around the corner. So literally it was like a 3-minute walk just going. I basically lived at Steps on Broadway for 6 months, and that was the way to kind of break into the dance network and industry in Manhattan. And I would just take like 5 classes a day and rehearse, and that was just kind of my life because I took that complete spring semester off of college, which was a risk because I just didn't know yet where else will I get in, because I knew I wanted to get my degree. So I knew I would apply to a couple of schools. I just didn't know where or how, but it was like a risk I was willing to take to be in New York. And so as I started auditioning, I auditioned for 4 college dance programs, and my top program was the Ailey Fordham BFA program at the Ailey School. And I had that audition in Dallas, Texas, because they do a tour. And I remember getting that phone call. They told me over the phone, and I remember just like jumping in my apartment, like literally jumping, like so tased, but just like smiling. I called my mom. She was like 3 hours behind. It was like probably 5 a.m. her time. She was like, what? And I was like, Ailey. So that was like a pivotal moment upon like moving to New York, just because I knew that meant an environment that I had dreamed of being a part of. So that was kind of moving to New York. Like that was the chapter that kind of transitioned me into a new space and into a new dance environment and into a completely new group of people and network that like to this day I still connect with and talk to and collaborate with. And so I'm very grateful to have like believed in myself and been committed enough to get myself here and work here.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love that it sounds like you found your second family, you found your second home. And I'm glad that you had that self-trust to say, okay, I am gonna leave and drop your scholarship and just completely take that leap of faith and try something different and follow your gut. I am so happy for you that you were able to do that and that it has yielded such beautiful fruit and opportunity for you, and that you're continuing to thrive and, like you said, still have contact with so many of these people. I love that for you, and I love that you're getting to enjoy and continue to follow your passion and not having to pivot in a way that would feel crushing. I love that you're getting the push, and I feel like that's so crucial, like when we actually trust ourselves, the amazingness that gets to unfold. So on that note, is there anything that you would share with someone, like another creator, another dancer, or just people in general, on like what you've been able to do, like through your self-trust? Like, is there anything you do or practices that you maintain that help you to move the way you move?
That's a great question and point too. I think it's very difficult as artists, as you know, to like not question yourself ever, just because of the way that like your identity as an artist can feel. You can feel like, you know, just given society and what that means, like it can feel in your lifestyle as a freelance artist, it can feel, you know, less than a lot. And so for me, like it's a constant battle to revalidate like that this is really important because of how I feel when I watch a dancer who's committed to the work. Like each time I go to a performance, I feel re-inspired because that moves me, and so I want to move the next person. Like I want to make that person feel moved by what I'm doing. And I think really when it comes down to it, like I'm a very spiritual person, and so for me personally, like I do believe in God's plan for what He has in store for me. So there's a big like trust factor, and for me that's a big comfort, just asking like Him if I need help, or just that the cycle of trust. I think that's a big part of my personal journey as an artist, just because I feel like that's what I was kind of born to do as part of who I am, and like with the cards I was given. And so I kind of leave it up to Him to continue showing me what the next path is. And then I think, this is also just advice to myself, but I think the biggest like reminder too is like when a door completely shuts and it feels like almost a slap in the face, like, oh, I felt like I deserved that, like and then the next door shuts, and it's like, I think just knowing that closed door, like it's so hard to see in the moment, but sometimes that closed door is pivoting you, like, and transitioning you into a new opportunity. You just can't see it yet. Or maybe, there's a reason that you weren't given that opportunity. I think having that mindset rather than like, I'm this, I'm that. If it's just, I wasn't meant to, okay, that's shut, let me look. I think that's a big mindset in terms of perspective that helps.
I love that. And I think that's very true. That mindset does have a huge role to play, and whatever your belief systems are really can be an anchoring point. So I love that that's something that helps guide you and keep you in that body of trust and self-trust. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So before we close, my last question would be, what is something you want the world to know about Miranda Stück?
I think what I would want the world to know about me is how important artists are in any given community. I think like artists are such unique and talented individuals, and I say artists because being a dancer, like that's who I am, but I think each dancer or singer, writer, photographer, like they are a part of a bigger community, because they all share something in common. They share the idea that creativity is valuable and that should be shared with other people. So I think that's something I'd want the world to know, that I value, and that's something I believe in. And the other thing is just advocating for health and mental health and physical health. That's just something I firmly believe in, and it's given me my own medical journey has really impacted the way I view my body. It used to be like, oh, my body looks like this, or it's like it's not doing this today, or kind of that sort of feeling inside. And after what I've been through, just on a medical level now, it's like I'm so grateful for what my body can do. It's a blessing, and I think that can be really taken for granted sometimes. So that's the other point I would stress about who I am as a person, what I stand for.
Well, Miranda, thank you. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. Thank you for sharing some of your story, some advice. I think that is so beautiful. It has been wonderful to sit down with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a beautiful experience, getting to collaborate and have such a great conversation and such great questions.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. This has been so enjoyable. and family. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, share. What was something interesting you found out about Miranda? Are you a dancer yourself? Can you relate to some of these experiences? Let us know in the comment section below. And also, as always, if you yourself are a creator, please connect with us. You can find us at housefluidreflections@gmail.com. Let us know what kind of creator you are. We'd love to highlight you. You can find us on socials with the same @ and on Twitter at HFR Connect. We would love to connect and grow the community because, as Miranda just shared with us, art is important and artists are important to all the communities that we belong to. And for now, peace until next time.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yay! Look at you with the questions. You hit me with some good questions. I was like, I haven't thought about this in a long time.
I'm glad.
That's so cool. And how did you like start this series?
So, the pandemic.